joining us. We will start with Dave Biddle from 247. Dave.
Thanks, Mike. Hi, Ryan. This past weekend was so unique for you guys because you obviously would have preferred to play the game against Maryland, but it gave you guys a chance to get a head start preparing for Indiana, and it gave you guys a chance to rest, not risk any injuries playing a game, whereas Indiana had to play a game. Just can you talk about the pros and cons of that situation for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think the hard part is that Indiana had an opportunity to play, and now they've played for 4 straight weeks, and so they got a little bit of rhythm going. We didn't, and when you miss out on preseason, you miss out on the spring. It certainly hurts when you're not playing games. We wanted to play, and we didn't have the opportunity to do that. So we tried to do the best we can here in-house to replicate games. Everything we did in practice was game rep. Try to replicate it the best we could. So, it's been a challenge, but that's the season, and just trying to take it one day at a time.
I want to ask you about Zach Harrison. I mean, he's a guy that's in the rotation. He's playing. Perhaps maybe isn't playing as much as some of us thought he would. Just where do things stand with Zach? What are your thoughts on him, and where is he at in his development?
I think that we're rotating guys, and Zach's best football is ahead of him. He came in last year. I thought hadn't really played a lot of defensive end, and came in last year and did a nice job. And so now he's into year 2, and he's working hard. He's getting some good work in there in practice, getting better. And I think as we keep rotating and then we keep playing games more, he'll just keep getting better.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yep. All righty, we'll go next to Nathan Baird from Cleveland.com. Nathan.
Hey, Ryan, any place in particular where you feel like the extra time off might have benefited you guys the most, or the extra preparation time as well?
Probably not. I mean, you don't typically acquire as many, injuries coming out of practice than you would a game. I think that would probably be the only positive of that. And I guess, you just limit your exposure being here as opposed to traveling. Those are the only 2 positives I can think of.
I guess and also your assessment of Michael Penick. I know you guys last year had sort of prepared to face him, and then he was injured and wasn't able to play. But just what are you seeing from him this season? Has there been a progression from what you saw last season, and what is allowing him to be successful?
Well, I think he's really playing mistake-free. I mean, he's making a lot of plays. He keeps him on schedule. He's made some really big-time throws in tight spots. And he's fearless, and got to give him a lot of credit. Right now, he's playing almost perfectly, and so that's a big challenge for us. I think he's a very competitive player. You can tell, and he's got some really good weapons around him. Done for the most part, they've done a good job protecting him, and his receivers making a lot of plays. So when you add that all up, that's why you have a team that's 4-0 coming in here.
All right, we'll go next to Clay Hall from WSYX. Clay.
Brian, does the rise of Indiana point to a deeper Big Ten, or does the decline of Penn State and Michigan say that's not the case?
Well, I think, Indiana deserves credit. I think Tom deserves credit. The way that they're playing right now, I mean, they're just playing really, really well. And like I said, in all 3 phases, making very few mistakes. They're playing well, and I think they're the ones that deserve the credit more than anything else.
If you have to play in an empty stadium, would you rather play at noon than at 8 o'clock in the evening?
Yeah, I think so. I think especially this time of year, just a little bit, the sun's on you a little bit more, and just, waiting around all day is something that none of us really love. If it's going to be a packed house in an electric environment, that's one thing.
Right.
But it's all the same. I think some of us prefer playing earlier.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
All righty, next up, we will go to Austin Ward, Lettermen Row. Austin.
Ryan, you certainly, seemed frustrated and disappointed Thursday with the cancellation. When you had conversations with the team, what did you sense was their mood and the way that they were responding to having that opportunity taken away from them?
Yeah, they've handled it really well. At first they were disappointed, they were angry, and then we just went to work and kept going. We knew going into this that something like this may happen. We've seen it happen across the country, so we're not the only ones. And like we said, and like I said, nobody feels bad for us. So we got to move on, and that's what they did. And I thought they handled it well. I think they've handled a lot of these things well, especially when you make so many sacrifices and you do things everything you can to be healthy to play in a game, and then you still don't have an opportunity to play. It's a hard pill to swallow, but the good news is it's behind us, and now we're on Indiana, and that's where all the focus is. And so to answer your question, I think they handled it very maturely, and they focused on their work and having good practice.
Does it help at all, you think, that, I don't think any of us would have projected that the stakes would be this high for Indiana this week, but clearly they know what's on the line this week, and you can't just feel sorry for yourself or the East might slip away this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that every game for us. So, whether somebody's 4-0 or 0-4, we have to win every game here. So every game's big, but when Indiana's playing the way they are right now, it's certainly a little bit different in the fact that this is a major challenge for us. It's a challenge every time we play a game, but the way that they're playing and the way that they've won games, our margin for error gets smaller and smaller. So they played last week again, and they played really, really well and shut out Michigan State, created some turnovers, played well. They've been playing really, really well. So we got to be ready to go right from the get-go, and then we got to be willing to play 4 quarters. And the whole idea is to get the game into the fourth quarter and win it in the fourth quarter.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yep.
All right, we'll go next to Bill Landis from The Athletic. Bill.
Hey, Ryan. If you go outside right now, it feels very much like late November, and I think by this point in a typical year, you expect you would know a certain amount about your team. And even if you look at your schedule, you're technically kind of halfway through it. You've only played 3 games, and I'm wondering how that might make you sort of recalibrate your evaluations of where you guys are and where you hoped you might be at this point.
Yeah, it's we could probably talk about that for about an hour, Bill. I mean, you don't know about your team, but at the same time, we kind of know who we are because we just seen us go through so much adversity. We've seen the way we've responded to things, that we see the daily decisions and the sacrifices that have been made over time, the way we've stuck together. We just haven't played a lot of football, and that's the crazy thing. And there's no way to replace playing in games, and so we're just going to keep moving on and just take every day and every game as it comes, and understand that every game is a blessing, and try to get better. I don't know what else to say other than that. I mean, I think we do know what kind of character we have on this team, and the work ethic and the leadership and the type of people we have, and the culture is really, really strong. So that part's great. Just haven't been on the field much. Like you said, in late November, we played 3 games.
Do you find yourself ever, whether you're watching film or you're on the practice field and see maybe a mistake happen, and you think to yourself, like, man, that shouldn't be happening right now, then have to remind yourself, well, you know what? This guy's only played, a handful of snaps or 60, 70 snaps when typically he'd have 200 under his belt by now.
Yeah, very often too, for sure. I mean, that really is something that is very different about the season. And yes, that happens.
We'll go next to Mitch Stacy from the Associated Press. Mitch.
Hey, Ryan. Related to some kind of questions earlier about Indiana, I think before the season, we all looked at the schedule and circled Penn State and Michigan as maybe the big games. Now you're in mid-November, and you've got a top 10 matchup against Indiana, a team you beat by 40 last year. I mean, it's 2020. How unpredictable was this matchup for you that the stakes would be so high?
I mean, I guess it depends on who you ask. I think if you asked Indiana, they're not that surprised. I'm not that surprised. I think they have a really good scheme on both sides of the ball. They do a good job coaching. They've upgraded their personnel. And like you said, in 2020, anything can happen. So you just don't know. So I'm not that surprised about this at all. You could see them getting better last year. They played really, really well. Last year's game maybe was, I don't know, maybe an outlier for them when you look at their body of work. And it was early in the season, and they kind of found their way as the season went on and got stronger. And plus, Penick didn't play. So you add all those things up, and here we are.
All right, we'll go next to Dan Hope from 11 Warriors. Dan.
Ryan, I know that you guys had a lot of things you wanted to get better on coming off of a Rutgers game. How anxiety-inducing is it as a coach when you've got to wait another week to see if your team actually has gotten better at those things?
Yeah, there's a lot of anxiety for sure, and just the waiting and all that is not easy, but it's what it is. So we got to just work through it, and the best way to handle it is get back into your work and just keep swinging away. We did have a really good practice on Saturday. I felt we had a really good practice yesterday, so that's been good. The response has been good. The pads have been clicking, and I think that's all really positive momentum. But like you said, we got to go play and put it on the field. So that's the challenge, and we'll just keep working towards Saturday.
And I know you're just focused on 1 week at a time, but you mentioned that, you don't know where your team would be as much as in a normal year. Do you worry at all that by playing less games than some of these other conferences, that at the end of a season, your team might not be as far along where it should be?
No. I mean, I worry about a lot of things for sure. That really isn't one of them. I think that, if we're able to play our schedule and then play in the championship game and everything like that, then we'll be right where we need to be. And I think a lot of the schools and places they've gone, when you look throughout the country, they've missed games, they've had people miss time. It's been kind of crazy. So no, I don't think that part should factor in. I don't think it will.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yep. We'll go next to Bill Rabinowitz from the Columbus Dispatch. Bill.
Hey, Ryan, you kind of touched on this a little bit, but what impresses you the most about Indiana? How are they different than they've been in past years?
Well, I think first off, it's personnel. I think they've upgraded their personnel. They've done a good job recruiting and developing them. Secondly, I think they have really good scheme on both sides of the ball. They do a really good job on offense of spreading you out and then running and being physical inside. On defense, they're very, very aggressive. They come at you a bunch of different ways. It's hard to figure out where they're coming from. They blitz a lot, and really don't have a lot of tendencies that way. They're just kind of dialing up different blitzes, and it's hard to figure out where they're coming from. So they're very, very aggressive, and then they're playing well in special teams. The returner's done a good job, and then coaching. They're playing with great energy. So I think when you mix all that stuff together, that's what you're getting, and you're getting a team that really is playing at a high level and has made a whole bunch of mistakes. And I think that's probably, again, the personnel, the scheme, and the coaching. When you mix all that together, that's why you're seeing a 4-0 team playing really well.
I've got a Chris Olave question. When you went out to Mission Hills to see Jack Tuttle, did you know anything about Chris Olave before Chris Hauser mentioned him to you? And I'm sure you get a lot of, hey, look, you're here to watch this guy, but here's this teammate that's overlooked. You get that a lot, and was that part of the equation there? Yes,
that happens a lot for sure. And usually if the coach is saying, I got another guy for you over here, that means you're not getting the guy that was just introduced to you. So that's usually not a good feeling. But in this case, it was kind of the perfect storm. He didn't play the year before. He had some really good track times. He was a multiple sport athlete, and it just kind of grew. And I kind of liked him. I liked his approach. He had a quiet confidence about him. I loved his family. And, for us to go all the way to San Diego to get a receiver, that's, we got to really feel strongly about him. And we did, and I did. And to say we would think that he would be the way he is right now, that's not true. We saw something in him that we really liked. We thought he'd be a really good football player, but he's exceeded his expectations here so far, and I'm really happy for him and his family.
Just one quick thing. Can I just sneak one in? Did he run routes that day? It sounds like he just caught balls. He really didn't do much that day.
Yeah, well, it's over time, you start to get more and more evaluations. We had guys go out and watch him play and those type of things. So it was more just information gathering. But yeah, I think he was out there playing catch with Jack, and then it kind of grew from there. So.
All right, thanks, Ryan.
All right, next up, Doug Lamarice, Cleveland.com. Doug.
Hey, Ryan, given what Wyatt Davis and Josh Myers did last year, the level they played at, I just assumed they'd come in this year and just dominate people and blow holes open every play. Are they? How are those two guys playing?
I think they've been good. I mean, I think they've been solid. I think that when you look at the first three games, been 3 different styles of defense. And I think, first off in protection, they've done very well. Justin's had a really good pocket to throw. And I think that's part of the equation here too, is Justin's poise in the pocket has a lot to do with the fact that he can stand in the pocket. And so I think they've done a really good job in protection. And the run game too, I think when you grade them out, they haven't been perfect, but they've been solid. They've been good. They've been practicing really, really well. So, I think overall they've been playing solid.
And then on the other side with Harry as a young starter on the interior of the offensive line, I think we talked about it already. He had a couple penalties in the last game, but when a young guy like that, maybe every now and then is making a mistake, is it technique? Is it trying to figure out who you're supposed to pick up if somebody's blitzing or if somebody's coming? When you have any sort of young interior offensive lineman who's finding his way, what are the toughest things for a young guy like that?
Yeah. Well, I think when you're in year 2, you kind of get thrown to the fire a little bit. Most guys are kind of, into year 3, like Nick and some of the guys. This is year 2 for Harry. So he's learning. And that's one of the things that I think really makes him, has a chance to be a really good player, is his ability to learn. And he's very, very intelligent. He learns from things that go on. So many things that you see in a game is the first time you see it. So you can't really replicate some of the defenses that we see on game day in practice. So we see our defense, and that's over and over and over again. When we go against some of these other teams that play different styles, tilted noses, 2 gappers, things that we're not, well, then you have to learn from it. And guys like Thayer and Wyatt and Josh, they have a kind of like a Rolodex of plays in their brain and things that they can go back upon. When you're new, you don't. Which again, if you think about where Nick is right now, I'm really, really proud of where Nick is because he's been able to do that. But as the guard, he's learning. And so the big thing is he just got to make sure that he keeps learning from things that go on and just keep improving. And then, and I think, he's going to have a really good career here.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yep.
All righty, we'll go next to Kyle Rowland from the Toledo Blade. Kyle.
Hey, Ryan. Sorry, this is a little bit of a repeat. Bill stole my thunder there with the Olave question. When you went out there and he and Jack just basically threw to each other, there weren't really even routes run that day. How much do you evaluate just a personality or just character or whatever? Was that part of why you were immediately kind of attracted to Chris?
You can usually tell when people talk about somebody. So whether it was the principal at the school, whether it was Jack himself, Coach Hauser, you start to listen to enough people. And when you go through recruiting, maybe one person, they may really like somebody, they give them a good recommendation. Then you go to somebody else and they kind of say the same. And then by the time you get to the 3rd or 4th person, if they're talking very highly about somebody, you need to pay attention. And that's what happened with Chris. It wasn't something really that we saw live at that time. It was something that piqued our interest. Then we came back and got some evaluations, watched film, learned more about him, who he was. And in recruiting, we're not really able to evaluate all that much. So we have to really rely on people's recommendations. And Coach Hauser and everybody there at Mission Hills did a great job of, just giving us the information that we needed. The principal there was awesome. Just so many great people that really loved Chris and believed in him. And that's why we paid such close attention to him and then watched the film and checked off all those boxes.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right, we'll go next to Tony Gerdeman, Buckeye Scoop. Tony.
Ryan, regarding Josh Proctor, we've seen him do a few different things this season. As a game planner and play caller on Saturdays, are those types of players, those versatile defenders, how annoying are they to deal with? And would annoying be the correct term for just dealing with versatile defenders?
You cut out there for a second. You're asking like guys who can do multiple things on defense? Yeah.
How annoying is that? And is annoying the right word, I guess?
I don't know if annoying is. I mean, it allows people to do multiple things. Like, for instance, their Husky and nickel position allows them to do a bunch of different things. It's kind of that whole 4-2, 5 conversation where they can go play coverage man-to-man. Really, if you can play man-to-man coverage, zone coverage, blitz, and then play the run, if you can do those things, that's pretty good. Now, at what level? That's the question. You know, I mean, if you can do all of them pretty good, that's okay. If you can do them all of them really good, if you can do everything great, then you're like the kid, you know, Isaiah Simmons at Clemson, you know, and so yeah, it allows flexibility for sure, schematically for the defense coordinator to do a lot of different things.
But for you as the offensive guy, what's it like dealing with, you know, on the other end, dealing with those guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's more of, it just allows them to do more things. So you're going to have to deal with more looks. You're not going to get as much personnel-based information.
Thanks.
Yep.
I got time for just a couple more. We will go to Rob Aller from the Columbus Dispatch. Rob.
Hey, can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Hey, Ryan, off topic, and I know you've spoken to this before, but, and I mean this as a positive, but I think I've covered 5 Ohio State coaches, and you're the most NFL-like, I think, of any of them. And I'm just curious, how much of that NFL pedigree did you bring to this job, and do you still tap into it?
Well, you know, I was only in the NFL for 2 years, and the rest of the time it was college. So it was more of a learning experience for me. You know, I've always been in college other than those 2 years. And so I think, you know, for the most part, it's college based, but being exposed to it for 2 years allowed me a great opportunity to see what that was like, to learn about the pro passing game, learn about developing quarterbacks, and just see what that side of it is like. And it was a great experience. But really, when you look at, I don't know how many years I've been coaching now, but it was only really 2 years. So mostly been college my whole life. And so I would say I used most of the lessons I learned in college, probably in day-to-day, schematically, sometimes use the things that I learned those couple years. But you know, everywhere you go, you learn more and you learn something new.
In terms of adjustment, you go from the NFL where losing is, you know, unless you're the Patriots, it happens a lot. And then you've got to come to college where you can't lose a game. How tough was that adjustment? That's
tough. That's really tough. Yeah. It's tough everywhere you go. It's tough no matter where you go for different reasons, you know. Certainly that league is brutal because no matter what, you're designed to go 8-8. And then when you go 8-8, you know, the owner wants to know why you're 8-8. So that'd be a reason why. Well, everyone's supposed to go 8-8. That's the way the league's designed. Where, you know, here and other places, it's not that way. So every place has its own challenges. You know, we're very, very fortunate here and you know, all the different things, and we're able to recruit, you know, great young men and really talented guys and all those things. But with it, like you said, comes great expectations. So, you know, I obviously, you know, I believe this is the best place in America, the best job in America. And, you know, we get to coach the best young men. And so, you know, it's a blessing to be here every day.
Time for 2 more. We'll go to Patrick Murphy, 247. Patrick.
Ryan, you've talked about Indiana upgrading personnel and scheme and whatnot. I think the consistent there is Tom Allen. From getting to know him, from watching him over these last few years, what has he done to improve that program?
A lot. I think it goes back to the 3 things I mentioned earlier. First off, the personnel. I think he's done a good job recruiting, identifying, you know, whether it's the people or recruits from Indiana, you know, whether it's going to get some skill players, maybe down in Florida. He's done a good job. But then also they've done a good job with their personnel developing, you know, schematically, or excuse me, you know, technique-wise, fundamentally, you know, strength and conditioning. And then I think the scheme has been excellent. And then again, coaching, you know, and how are you able to implement those things? And so in all 3 of those areas, I think he's done a wonderful job.
All right, we'll wrap it up with Joey Kaufman from the Columbus Dispatch. Joey.
Ryan, when you first recruited or Justin arrived here, did you expect he would be as good as far as kind of limiting turnovers and throwing as few as interceptions as he's had? He's thrown 3 in 2 years here.
Yeah, I mean, certainly you don't know when you get somebody. You knew the talent, you saw the physical traits, but you don't know about all the other things that come with it. You don't know what you're going to get until they get into the game. And that's the hardest part, especially in college when you're not able to really work with quarterbacks. It's getting harder and harder. You know, in the NFL, you get to go and work them out, sit down with them, spend a day with them, put them through whatever drills you want to do. The scouts watch multiple games. We don't do that. We get film, and we're lucky to get them into camp. Maybe we'll watch them in like a spring practice. So it's a crapshoot, and so you don't know until you get them. But when Justin got here, you realize right off the bat he was special in a lot of areas, and managing the game is something I think he's just getting better and better at.
Why do you think he's been so proficient in that particular area, just as far as turnovers? Is that just something you guys have coached into him? Is that something he just has a knack for? Because he has an eye for big plays and doesn't like to take a sack. So it seems like that maybe you'd expect maybe he would take risks, and it doesn't seem like he throws many.
Well, I think he understands, our plan to win and how important turnovers are, and that if we turn the ball over, we put ourselves at major risk to lose the game. And so that's the first thing. But then at the same time, you have to understand the situation. There's so many things that go into play, understanding spacing and timing and the situation in the game, and when you need to take a chance, when you not need to take a chance. Do you throw where maybe only the receiver can catch it? All those things come into play. And so you can talk about it till you're blue in the face, but it's another thing to actually go execute it. And so, you got to give him credit in that area.
All right, Coach. Thank you very much for your time today.
All right. Thanks, guys.
They would wear for
start the questioning with Tim May from Lettermen Row. Tim, lead us off.
Sure will. Thank you very much. Tyler, as you look at y'all's rotation on the defensive line and stuff, how effective has it been from your vantage point to basically keep fresh guys in there, and who is really stepping up their game besides you on that front?
I think everybody's stepping up their game, and the rotation definitely plays a part for us too, keeping us fresh on the field. You know, no one has to stay out there for 60 plays a game. You know what I mean? So it's definitely a benefit and an advantage for us.
Yeah, and as you watch Indiana on video, Michael Penix Jr. seems to be another quarterback since the last drive against Penn State. He seems to be playing with a lot of confidence, et cetera. What just jumps out at you about him and the challenge on Saturday?
I think their ability to fight all 4 quarters really sticks out to me because, in my opinion, every year and every week, as you can see, Indiana's been getting better. You know what I mean? Their record right now speaks for itself. I think they're going to be a tough team. It's going to be a good challenge for us. He's a great quarterback.
Thanks, man.
Next, we will go to Stephen Means from Cleveland.com. Stephen.
Hey, Tyler, I don't know if this same logic applies to defensive linemen or not, but usually with rotations, I know it keeps you fresh, but is it harder to get into a rhythm out there on the field when, you know, you kind of rotating as much as you guys do, especially with 5 guys?
I would just say you just got to be ready when your number's called. You know what I mean? Coach Jay's doing everything he can to keep us fresh, and I think that's the main goal. As much as sometimes people may want to stay out there for 4 or 5 drives in a row, it might not be best for us down the road, you know what I mean? So we're also playing for games down the road as well, thinking long term. So right now, just got to make sure you're ready to go in when your number's called.
Have you had that moment on the field where I understand, you know, that he's trying to do the best he can, but maybe you're in a bit of a groove out there and then, you know, you're coming out the game and part of you wishes, man, I need to stay out. Can I stay out here a little bit longer because I'm feeling it right now, I guess?
Oh, yeah, that's definitely happened to me in the past couple of weeks. I think there was a couple of drives I felt like I should have stayed out there. But once I come off to the sideline, you know, it was all smiles and good vibes with Coach Jay because you already know the next person going in is going to be able to make some plays.
Thanks.
All right, we'll go next to Spencer Holbrook from Lettermen Row. Spencer.
Yeah, that'd be a real advantage for us, you know, especially when you can make the offense try to play uphill instead of downhill. That always helps the defense, you know, you got some space behind you, and you know the plays are more limited, you know, when they're all backed up. So that definitely helps us when they have a short field, longer field, excuse me.
All right, we'll go next to Patrick Murphy from 247. Patrick.
Tyler, there was a lot of stuff made after the Rutgers game about the limited number of stats from the defensive ends. But when you looked back at the game, what did you see that you guys did well? It sounded like you guys felt like you played well, regardless of the stats. What was indicative of that on the film for you?
Oh, we affected the way the quarterback threw the ball. You know, if we can do that consistently, drive in and drive out, even though we may not get a sack, that helps our DBs, you know. If we're in his face all the time, put him off the spot, take him out of his zone, his rhythm, that helps the whole defense, you know. So it's always not about getting those big sacks, you know, 3-sack games. Even though we have plenty of guys that can do that, we just like to play our role and help the whole defense.
All right, we'll go next to Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch. Bill.
Yeah, Tyler, you were very complimentary about Indiana. But did you see this coming? I mean, I'm sure when you got to Ohio State, you probably never thought the biggest game of the year would be Indiana.
Yeah, no, I definitely didn't see it coming, you know. But as you can see, the whole Big Ten is kind of unpredictable this year. And every team is a little bit different than last year. So we always try to approach the new season with a new mindset and give everybody the respect as they should.
When you watch Indiana, what impresses you the most?
I think, like I said before, their ability to play all 4 quarters, and they're not going to quit. You know, regardless of how the score may look early on, they're going to keep fighting. We saw in that Penn State game how that went. Those guys, they're competitors over there. You know, I think they got a great coach and a great program that's got their heads on straight right now.
Thanks, Tyler.
All right, we'll go next to Austin Ward from Lettermen Row. Austin.
Tyler, how did you react on Wednesday last week when you found out you guys weren't going to get to play?
Oh man, I was hurt. I was hurt, man. But things happen. I know it happened to a couple other teams, so just gotta roll with the punches. I try to turn it to a positive. I got more time, get my legs under me, get my body right, and get a better understanding for the Indiana game plan. Things like that. So we just kind of took it, learned from it, and just carried on to the next day.
Thanks, man.
All right, we'll go next to Tony Gerdeman, Buckeye Scoop. Tony.
You came in with Nick Petit-Frere. You guys, I'm sure, have gone against each other quite a bit in practice over the years. How have you seen him grow, and were there any moments in practice where I guess things stopped maybe being as easy as they used to be against him?
Oh yeah, definitely. Nick, the improvements he's made from last year to this year is crazy. Like, especially if you watch him from freshman year to the point he is now, it's a completely different player. I think as far as his strength, his knowledge of the game, his understanding how to pass it, all that has improved significantly. And there's definitely been times I had to change up my rush just because, Nick has just made improvements to his game. Definitely a great tackle for us.
And you mentioned Indiana's not going to quit. How much of the second halves maybe haven't been, for a number of reasons, what the defenses wanted them to be? So how much is that a focus this week on finishing the game?
No, it's a huge focus for us, and not only this week, for the rest of the season. You can't fall off how we usually were in the past couple games in the second half. That's just not acceptable. So no, we're definitely going to emphasize that this week, and then hopefully continue to finish that out for the rest of the season.
Thank you.
Got time for two more questions. We'll go to Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com. Nathan.
Tyler, the first couple games against Martinez, against Clifford from Penn State, I know containing the quarterback was a big focus. Penick hasn't run that much in his career. So I guess just where do you guys assess the threat of what happens, his ability to escape if you guys are to bring some pressure and get after him that way?
We just got to make sure he's uncomfortable. I think he's at his best when he's comfortable. He has his feet under him, and he's also a bigger quarterback, So when he's dropped back and his ability to see over the line, we can't let him be comfortable back there. I think our whole goal is just get him off his spot, get the ball out of his hands.
All right, and we'll wrap it up with Jeremy Birmingham from Lettermen Row. Jeremy.
Hey, Tyler, kind of looking around the country, you see a lot of historical programs struggling, a lot of teams that almost seem to be lost in what 2020 has been. What makes the culture at Ohio State so different? And I'm not going to ask you to throw anybody under the bus, but guys that around the country at other programs, what do you hear from them that sounds different to what you experience at Ohio State?
I think it's just our culture. Our culture is very consistent here. Like I say, from my freshman year to my junior year now, things have changed slightly, but the culture has always been the same. We're always consistent. We build off toughness and brotherhood. Regardless of what kind of players we got in the locker room, what coaches you have with the staff, regardless if it's your first year here or your 10th year here, you understand the culture. I think that's what makes us great.
Is that driven by the coaches or the players? And I guess I know it's created by the coaches initially, but how much of that now is driven by the players versus the staff?
It's created by the coaches for sure, but emphasized by the players. We got to be able to live by that. As much as we see it written on paper, if we don't actually live that life of loving each other and playing for each other, then it doesn't really mean anything. And I think the coaches do a great job every day reminding us about that.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
All righty, Tyler. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. Have a good day.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I believe Josh Myers is next up on the schedule. Just kidding. We'll have Thayer Munford here momentarily. There you go. All right, Thayer, thank you very much for joining us. We will start with Dan Hope from 11 Warriors. Dan.
Hey, Thayer, I noticed in the last game that you had Mumford Jr. on your nameplate on your jersey. I was curious if there was a story behind that.
The reason why I got Mumford Jr. on my back is because I never put Jr. on my back because I was like more afraid of my past. Like when I meant my past, I meant like, of course, like my father, because he wasn't like really like a really good role model for me. So I was talking to my mom about it, and she basically said like, you gotta own it. You know, that's your name. You gotta be grateful for it. I have learned so much from my dad that was so bad that I'm not trying to like repeat the future. So that's why I put a junior for myself.
What is it, kind of about that to you that, resonates with you and maybe makes you want to reclaim your name, so to speak?
To be honest, it's just my name, and I love it. I like my name, even though he was not as a good person that I thought he was about to be, but I respect what he done, what he has done for me, like for my past, and I can take whatever things that he has done bad for myself.
Thank you, Bear.
All righty, we'll go next to Brendan Gulick, Buckeyes Now on Sports Illustrated. Brendan.
Hey, Thayer, I actually hoped I might be able to ask you about your teammate, Paris Johnson. Dave Biddle wrote a really good piece about Paris's charity work. And, there's been an awful lot of talk about the NCAA changing rules that can help players with their ability to capitalize on their name, image, and likeness, but maybe not so much talk about how athletes are using their platforms for things like that, where they're impacting their communities directly. We haven't had a chance to see Paris too much on the field yet this year. Can you give us a little bit more of a sense of, why this work with helping military veterans and with helping underprivileged kids is important to him? Do you have some background on that?
Oh, knowing him personally, he's just a great kid. He loves everybody. Like, he will take care of anybody, and like, it's really nothing much more. He loves football, and he just basically he just loves everybody.
Are there some other examples of maybe, guys who are doing similar things elsewhere on the roster that maybe we just haven't, come across yet?
Not that I know of.
Okay. That's okay. One more quick one. You guys are essentially at the halfway point of your season here in the regular season. And I realize you guys have pretty lofty expectations internally, but I'm hoping that you can give me an idea how you think as a team you guys are progressing. Are you meeting the expectations regardless of the scoreboard, regardless of the stats? Are you guys progressing the way you want to progress throughout this season?
There's always things to work on. I know everybody outside this program thinks that we are like the best team in the nation, which we love, but at the same time though, we know what more we can bring to the table. I don't think we actually hit our peak yet at all.
Thanks, man.
All righty, we will go next to Dave Biddle from 247 Sports. Dave.
Thanks, Mike. Hi, Thayer. What about you personally? How do you feel like you are playing personally this year? Seems like you're playing your best football, but how do you feel like you're playing this year?
Compared to last year, like 20 times better. A lot more quicker, a lot more physical. I just feel more confident in my body as a whole, you know. And personally, I'm not even there yet. I'm not even at my peak.
Thanks, man.
All righty, we'll go next to Joey Kaufman from the Columbus Dispatch. Joey.
Thayer, what has it been like playing in home games this year without a crowd, and is it at all harder to play at home without having a crowd, or the juice that you might get from 100,000 people?
Oh, you know, like it is hard not seeing like 100,000 people in the stands, of course, you know. But as Coach Day has said, like their spirits are there with us. Like even though we can't see them or hear them physically right now, even though we got like the fake crowd noise, but we know that they're there with us in that stadium.
Do you think there's less home field advantage this year in the conference?
Now I think everybody's just ready to play and just get on with the game.
All righty, we'll go next to Tim May from Lettermen Row. Tim.
Thank you. Thayer, as you watch Indiana on video, what just jumps out at you about their defense? They seem to, as Ryan Day said, blitz from all angles, pretty unpredictable. What do you see there, and how would you describe that defense?
I describe this defense as very hardworking. You know, they have a good scheme. They have good coaches. You know, and they just bring it every time. You know, and thing is though, we respect them. Like no matter what was the score last year, you know, like last year is last year. Like that doesn't mean anything. Like we like focus on like today. Like we're not focused on the past. We're not focused on how their history was against us. We focusing on right now. And right now, we're gonna respect them, and we can't wait to play them.
Yeah, they've got like I think 12 sacks and 10 interceptions so far. I mean, what is there a player or two that you've noticed on video just from a number standpoint that jumps out at you as maybe their real catalyst?
Everybody just jumps out to me, you know. But at the same time, like I said before, like we're gonna focus on today and today only.
Thanks, man.
All righty, we'll go next to Bill Landis from The Athletic. Bill.
Hey, Thayer. There's only, I don't know, maybe about half or maybe a little less than that, half left from your 2017 recruiting class. And that was obviously a very highly rated group that I think people expected a lot of when you guys signed. I'm just wondering how much, I don't know, sort of leaving your stamp as a class motivates you guys this year, given that it's likely the last year for a lot of you.
I feel like that's like every program, you know, like every class in each program wants to leave a legacy for that school. I know for us, it's like we just want to make sure we win a national championship, of course, and we try our hardest to actually make that possible.
All righty, next up, Tony Gerdeman, Buckeye Scoop. Tony.
Thayer, Ryan Day said this defense comes from all directions, and I'm wondering what that means for you. What kind of difficulties does that bring to you as a left tackle when they could be coming from blitzing, defensive ends, twists, and things like that? What's Saturday going to be like for you?
Saturday for me is going to be very interesting. You know, like yes, they bring it a lot, but at the same time, we'll be ready for it. We'll make sure that we'll be ready for it.
All righty, we'll go next to Austin Ward, Lettermen Row. Austin.
There, I asked Tyler this. Like, you guys find out on Wednesday that you're not going to get to play against Maryland after how hard you worked to get every opportunity. When you had one taken away, how did you respond to that?
For me personally, I was not happy at all because we just literally just got done doing like a whole hard practice, and we were so ready to just play Maryland. But at the same time, though, coronavirus this year, it's not on our side. We just got to take it on the chin and just get ready for Indiana.
All right, we'll go next to Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com. Nathan.
Thayer, if there's a situation on an offensive line where maybe one player is learning on the job, I guess kind of the way that Harry is this year. I mean, what are sort of the domino effects of that? Does that affect you and Josh too? And how do you try not to let it affect you, I guess, in a more significant way, or try to compensate for him kind of like figuring things out as he goes?
You know, with Harry, like especially from the last game, like it was a learning curve, of course. But knowing how Harry is, like from the 2 years that he's been here, he's going to overcome this. Like, I know that for sure. Like he is working very hard just to make sure that he doesn't make the same mistakes again.
All right, and we'll wrap up Thayer with Bill Rabinowitz from the Columbus Dispatch. Bill.
Yeah, Thayer, I'm kind of fascinated by the comparison and contrast with Nick. You had to lose a lot of weight. He had to gain a lot of weight. He comes in as a 5-star guy. You know, you kind of were 4-star guy, but toward the bottom of your recruiting class. Just the contrast. And how close are you guys? And do you see that? Do you guys ever talk about that and just the different paths that you've taken?
Not really. We just go on day by day. You know, Nick had another background, of course. Like, yes, he was light. And in my case, I was very, very heavy. I was like 365. But I had to lose all that weight before I had to come here. And he had to gain that weight back when he is here. So he's been doing a good job about it.
How close are you guys?
Actually, everybody off the line is like really close. Like we don't like discriminate each other. Like we make fun of each other just because like we love each other. But at the same time, like everybody loves everybody.
Thanks, Thayer.
All right, Thayer, thank you very much for your time. Have a good day. We got Josh Myers up next.
How's everybody doing?
All right, Josh, thanks for joining us. We're going to lead it off with Jared Smalley. Jared.
Hi, Josh. I know you guys as team, as coaches, you have looked at the way you've run the ball the first few weeks and you've had sort of mixed reviews on it. 200 yards a game is pretty good. But I wonder how you would view it as a player, how it feels, how it looks. Like, how would you judge a running game at the level you want it to be, look like, feel like? How would you describe that? What would it be?
Yeah, it is. It's kind of weird. We do have mixed feelings on the running game right now. I think in so many ways, our running game, I mean, if you're right, 200 yards a game certainly is not a bad thing. But it just could be prettier. It could be better than it is. And I feel like in so many of the games, it's been so close to popping, and it just hasn't for various reasons. So it's frustrating, but also, you know, we're moving the ball on the ground still. So mixed feelings is a good way of putting it.
And Josh, how big a deal is first down in that?
Oh, it's a massive deal. You know, you have to get in front of this. You can't get behind the sticks. You have to put yourself in a good, manageable second down situation. So it's huge.
All righty, we'll go next to Patrick Murphy, 247. Patrick.
Josh, Indiana's a team that obviously has improved over the last few years, but you know, they haven't been top 10 since the 60s and whatnot. When you've watched them, when you've played against them, what have you seen that's led to this improvement? And what do you see on film that is even better this year?
Yeah, there's a lot of things. Indiana, you're right, has been a good, solid football program for a while now. And you could kind of see this coming, you know, where they had a breakout year like this. So I'm not really surprised, to be honest with you guys. You know, even like last year, they had a lot of the tools that they needed to be really successful. They had a really good defensive scheme. They had good defensive players. Their offense, I know, struggled a little bit earlier last year, but you know, later in the year they got it going, and so it just seems like they had a quicker start this year, and they're firing on all cylinders. And I think one of the differences, you can just see it on film, the effort that they give. they're playing really hard.
All right, we got a lot of hands raised, and I want to get through as many people as possible. So just limit it to one question, and we'll go to Jeremy Birmingham, Lettermen Row. Jeremy.
Hey, Josh, there's an old quote that adversity does not build character, it reveals it. And for your team, your program, it seems like 2020 for a lot of other big programs has sort of caused some crumbling to happen foundationally. What makes Ohio State different? And in a room of 5 offensive linemen, four of them who are 5-star, top of the line prospects coming out of high school, one in Thayer who was offered basically the day before signing day. Was there ever any difference that you saw in the way he was treated to the way you guys were? And do you think that that's part of the culture?
No, he was not treated any differently than we were from the start. One thing that you find out really quickly when you get to Ohio State is that everything that you did in high school on your way to getting to Ohio State, all the cool things and the things you accomplished, that's great. But Jesus, somebody's going to break the door down. Once you get here, it's about what you do once you're here. It's not about what you did. It's about where you're on your way to being. So no, there was never any difference in treatment. We're all treated the same way, and we all have a lot of hard work to do to get to where we want to be.
Thanks.
We'll go next to Stephen Means, Cleveland.com. Stephen.
Hey, Josh. I just want to put you in Harry Miller's shoes for a minute. Do you think you would have been in a position, think you were ready to start as a second-year guy, top 50 recruit here? And also, when you were in your second year, just kind of walk me through like what your mindset was and where you thought you were mentally in this program compared to maybe where Harry is right now.
My second year?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was I ready my second year? That's maybe not so much. If you'd have asked me then, I would have told you absolutely, though. You know what I mean? It was the competitor in me. I couldn't help it. I thought, if you throw me in there, I'll get the job done. So I was definitely very much improved from my freshman year, but I think I still had a ways to go, which is why you didn't see me on the field. It's not an easy thing to do, to be a young guy and start. You have to think about how many obstacles are overcome for not only this team, but for a first-year starter like Harry. This is his first year starting. It's a weird year. He didn't have any games to kind of get warmed up with, our usual early season games where we blow teams out. That we didn't have that this year. We jumped straight into Nebraska and onto our Big Ten schedule, which is tough. So, it took our offensive line even last year a couple weeks to really get rolling and start looking like a solid unit together. So there's just so many obstacles for Harry to overcome right now. And all of us too, but especially Harry being a first-year starter and being so young. I'm pretty sure he's 19. He's 19 years old. It's a lot getting thrown at him.
All righty, we'll go next to Dan Hope from 11 Warriors. Dan.
Hey, Josh, just to kind of follow up on that, it seems like there's been, maybe a few times where maybe you and Harry just haven't quite been on the same page and, for something that goes wrong. How do you feel like, you two have played as a unit so far, and kind of what are you working on?
Yeah, there have been times where we have not been quite so gelled together. A couple of things have happened. And those are things that we're working to eliminate. You know what I mean? We'll be just fine. We know what we have to work on. And we've been working on those things and just talking through it and making sure, a big part of it is when the game does come, just relaxing and understanding what we've done to get to where we are, and just making sure that we, don't get too anxious and, want to try and kill somebody, not want to do too much, just calming down and doing our job. That's a big part of it.
All right, next up, we will go to Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch. Bill.
Josh, I hope you'll humor me with this one. I hope you like compare and contrast questions. Nick Petit-Frere and Thayer Munford, just both as players and just guys. Obviously, they've taken very different paths.
Yeah. Obviously, both of them very good football players. Both of them started as Thayer started as a sophomore. And so, yeah, they're slightly different paths. But, I mean, great guys, great relationship with both of them, both really good football players that are both playing really well right now. Yeah.
All right.
We'll go next to Bill Landis from The Athletic. Bill.
Hey, Josh, you've kind of touched on some of this already, but I know your position is so dependent upon sort of how you gel with the guy next to you, whether you're combo blocking or in pass protection. I'm just curious, like from your point of view, how long you think it takes before a group of guys start to become more comfortable together, or even like a center becomes more comfortable with the guard playing next to them?
Yeah. In a regular year, it should be pretty quick. It should be in the first week, if not second. But it's something that if you've played together for long enough, it should be a pretty quick transition.
All righty, we'll go next to Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com. Nathan.
Hey, Josh, maybe a question kind of along those same lines, but if an offensive line is having trouble at one spot, maybe one guy has a really tough matchup or is just having a bad day, what is sort of the domino effect, and how do the rest of you, I guess, try not to let that happen?
Yeah. Well, it happens. We're not perfect. Sometimes we have bad games, bad days, just like anyone else. And when that does happen, we talk to each other. You know what I mean? There's no one else on the field except for us. We're all we have. So we talk to each other, try and calm each other down, and then help in whatever ways we can. Ask them what we need to do. Make sure that we are doing whatever we can to help that person succeed. And ultimately, if one person's having a bad day, the domino effect is that's our whole offensive line. You know, if one person or two people have a bad day on any given day, obviously not any specific person, but if it happens, then you know that's a judgment on our whole offensive line.
Got time for two more. First, we'll go to Tim May, Lettermen Row. Tim.
Yeah, thank you very much. Josh, would you just assume not to ever see another cock nose tackle the rest of your life? I'm just being facetious there a little bit, but then past that, does every play almost seem like a pop quiz for you guys up front? The way defenses mix and match and come after things and try to take certain things away.
Yes, it does. Cock nose, not a fan. I don't know if you guys knew that or not. I'm not a fan. But yeah, defenses do at this point. They do whatever it is that they can to try and stop us. Whether that means being unsound, which is what some of our opponents have done, is just completely thrown sound defense out of the window.
Yeah.
Or whether it be just blitzing, you know, every play. And that's happened most games, or pretty much every game this season. We've been blitzed 80, 90% of the game. And so that's just something that we have to live with and we have to be able to deal with and handle.
Thanks, man.
And last question for Josh, we'll go to Dave Biddle, 247. Dave.
Hi, Josh. You've touched on this a little bit already, but there seems to be something about that third year for offensive linemen. You know, you and Wyatt both became all Big Ten, maybe all Americans as in your third year. The previous year, you guys were backups. We're seeing it now with Nicholas Petit-Frere. He said he probably wasn't ready to play last year, and now he's playing really well. Just what is it about that third year for most offensive linemen?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. It has been a big year for a lot of players in our program, especially offensive linemen. I think at that point you've had enough experience actually playing the game, and learn, and you have a really good knowledge of our offense by that point in your career. At least most players do. And you've played in some games in the year prior. So I just think it's a combination of some experience and just getting enough reps and mentally understanding the game at the point that you need to. Like, kind of like how I think it was Tim that just asked me about getting blitzed 80 or 90% of the time. If you have a guy who kind of knows the offense and we're getting blitzed 80 or 90% of the time, that's a problem. So I think that's probably the few biggest points.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Josh, very much for your time. Have a great day today.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, Josh.
We'll bring up Josh Proctor for our final interview of the day. All righty, Josh, thank you very much for joining us. Let's start out the questioning with Spencer Holbrook from Lettermen Row. Spencer.
That's good. Can you repeat that? I'm sorry. I think on a day-to-day basis, we really just talk about just like the little details, not always trying to make the big play or just making our reads and always trying to be in the right spot and not trying to get the game moving too fast for us. So I think that's our biggest improvement that we made over the 3 weeks. We kind of slowed down and we kind of took our time and actually broken down film and stuff.
All right, we'll go next to Austin Ward, Lettermen Row. Austin.
Josh, it seems like you're doing a little bit of everything in the secondary right now. Like, how would you describe your role? Because it seems like you could pop up anywhere.
I can describe it kind of like a Swiss Army knife. Just kind of anywhere you need me.
Do you like that part, or would you rather have one defined role?
Honestly, it doesn't matter to me. I just want to be out there with my team, make plays, and hopefully get to where we want to be at the end of the season.
Thanks, man.
We'll go next to Dan Hope from 11 Warriors. Dan?
Hey, Josh. Ryan talked before about just the lack of, margin for error that you guys have. I'm sure you guys always feel like you need to win every game, but is that even more amplified this year with how shortened this season has become?
Definitely. You can't make mistakes. I mean, we got limited games. Even Maryland last week got canceled, so you never really know what's going to happen. So everything counts. So we have to go into every game, every week, focused.
Do you see like a different sense of urgency right now just because there are so many less games?
Definitely. Because they harps on it every day. Just can't take days off because you never know what's going to happen. I mean, we get a limited amount of games and we have to get to where we want to be. So
next up, we'll go to Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com. Nathan.
Josh, just what stands out to you about Indiana's receiving core? That obviously the two wideouts and the tight end that they have. I mean, this is a team that can probably throw more weapons at you than you guys have seen from Indiana before.
I think the thing that stands out is their athleticism. I mean, every year they've improved, so we have to come into this week with the mindset of we have to play at our best and be at our best because we know they're going to come with everything they got.
All right, we'll go next to Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch. Bill?
Yeah, Josh, can you just give me your assessment of how you've played and how you think the secondary's played this year?
I think I've played pretty good, and as well as the secondary, but there are some places we can improve as far as tackling and some things like that. But all in all, I think we're in the right direction, and we're where we want to be right now. So we just got to keep working.
Okay, thank you.
Go next to Bill Landis from The Athletic. Bill.
Hey, Josh, prior to this year, how much experience did you have playing man-to-man coverage? And in the times they've put you in those positions this year, how do you feel like that's going?
I I had a bit of experience. Coach Halfley used to make me practice with the corners sometimes, so I wasn't too nervous about it, lining up in the slot. So I'm actually comfortable out there, really. I like being down in the box close, seeing everything fast. So.
And we'll go next to Tony Gerdeman, Buckeye Scoop. Tony.
Josh, in that role, what do you think you bring to this defense then? When you can the slot, or you can be that deep safety, what do you bring to the defense then?
Just playmaking ability, energy. Just a guy that just wants to play ball, see ball, get ball. So.
And we saw that on that 2-point conversion.
Yeah, kind of. That was just a kind of keep him out of the end zone, don't let him get it. So.
All right, next up, Jeremy Birmingham, Lettermen Row. Jeremy.
Hey, Josh, during your recruitment, I hope you don't mind if we go back to that a little bit, but you were obviously considering a number of schools that are very successful programs, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Georgia, Florida, all those big names. What was it culture-wise at Ohio State that was different for you, and why did you pick the Buckeyes at that time? No, and was it obvious to you to see the difference culture just from being on visits?
Yeah, actually during my junior year, I took a lot of visits during that summer. And I felt like just every time I came to Ohio, it was just like that brotherhood, like a home feeling.
Was that much different than anywhere else, or is there a way to tangibly separate that from other places?
I feel it was a lot different from other places. Most places really just care about the football and years after that, but they don't talk about where you want to be after football or what you actually want to do in life. So I think that actually attracted me here to the Buckeyes.
Thanks.
All righty, next up, we've got time for two more, and the first one is Tim May, Lettermen Row. Tim.
Yeah, first of all, Josh, have you ever owned a Swiss Army knife?
No, I
haven't. You just are one, right?
Yeah.
And then number two, when you watch these guys on video, Michael Penick Jr., just what stands out about him? He seems to be playing with a lot more confidence than even the beginning of the year. And just what is the threat level he brings on Saturday?
Like you mentioned, his confidence. He's a great player. He has a strong arm, and he has a really great receiving core. So we know they're going to try to attack us downfield, and they're going to challenge us this week. So we just have to be ready.
Is that play you saw him make to keep them in the game, whatever, against Penn State, is that about as good a play as you've ever seen by an individual, the reach?
It definitely is. It's just the want to win. It's just the will to win. So
good, man. Thank you.
We'll wrap up, Josh, with Stephen Meads from Cleveland.com. Stephen.
Hey, Josh, last season it was basically just a single high safety, and so it was Jordan Fuller at all times, and really you didn't get a lot of snaps within real game snaps into that Clemson game. But when they came to you this spring with this kind of role, I know you want to – any way you can get on the field is fine, but when you were looking at it, did you see how this maybe better fit your skill set and what you bring to the table? And, were you excited about this role? I don't know, was this a more exciting opportunity than just this is only going to be one safety and we're going to play this safety only, but having this role specifically made for your skill set? Were you, I don't know, excited about that at all, or I don't know?
It wasn't really a plan coming in. As Coach Combs came in, he kind of talked to me about multiple spots, but he just basically sat me down and told me that he wanted me to learn every spot in the back end, basically. He said versatility is our biggest threat, so I think I took that to heart, and I felt like that was my biggest chance of getting on the field.
Thanks.
All righty, Josh, thank you very much for your time.